G'day guys, Pat here from Tom's Outdoors. I've just got back from a fishing trip and today I want to give you a quick chat about waders versus wet wading. Now in this video I'm going to cover why you choose one over the other, some pros and cons of each, and why you might want both in your arsenal. Now the first thing when deciding whether to go waders or wet wading is the temperature. That's the biggest thing. Early season and late season, I always jump in a pair of waders purely because the water's so cold. Coming out of winter, I've got snow runoff, waders are going to keep you nice and warm. Again, going into our winter months in spawn run and things like that, waders are going to be the way to go, absolutely. Now in the summer months, however, I always tend to gravitate towards wet wading. Purely based on the temperature again, it's nice and warm. I tend to like to hike into a fair few spots to go fishing, get off the beaten track a bit, and wet wading allows me to hike further and more comfortably in hotter temperatures. Now that leads me to my second point. Based on how far you're going to be walking to where you're going to fish will also depend on whether you go waders or wet wading. Generally, hiking in general, and especially when you start hiking further, wet wading is going to be much comfier. Breathability in waders has come a long way in the last couple of years, and they are getting better at breathing when you're walking and sweating, but wet wading is always going to trump waders for long hikes. Now another important consideration is protection. When you're coming across a lot of blackberries, bush bashing, maybe the occasional snake. Oh, blackberry in my pants. Oh man. Waders are going to give you more protection there, especially down near those gravel guards. It's going to give you a lot more protection against snakes and give you a little bit more confidence when bush bashing. In saying that though, blackberries do put holes in waders very, very easily, little pinpricks that will eventually make them leak. That is one of the bigger downsides to waders also, is getting holes in them from blackberries, barbed wire, and anything else you come across, sharp rocks. As soon as you put a hole in waders, you know, you can put up with it for a fair while, but it'll eventually get a bit frustrating for you, and you'll want to either repair them or replace them. So that's the biggest downside with waders, I find. Now, as the name suggests, wet wading, you do get wet, and I find even in hotter months and sort of tailing out into the late season, because your feet do get wet, we're wearing big, thick neoprene socks. Now, the water that gets stuck in your wading boots when you're in the water warms up because of your body heat. Now, that helps in cooler water and tailing out into the late seasons. By far, the biggest consideration when deciding between waders or wet wading is the temperature at the end of the day. All the other little knickknacks and drawbacks to each can be worked around, but the temperature, you can't really get around. If you're stuck out in the freezing cold and you're wet wading, you're not getting warm anytime soon. On that same note, if you're hiking into a spot on a 40-degree day in waders, you're going to be a lot hotter and a lot less comfortable than if you're wet wading. For me personally, I wet wade the majority of the season until I can't bear it any longer and then I have to pull the waders out. It's a bit more comfortable, I can hike in for longer, it's a lot lighter on carrying a big heavy pack like I've just been on this fishing trip here. And yeah, it's less fatiguing over the course of a day and you don't have to worry about every little stick or blackberry or sharp rock you come across. If it was me, however, having both is really important for, again, those temperature reasons and where you fish and as you progress throughout the cycle of the trout season. Well, that's it for this one, guys. They're the main differences between waders versus wet wading. If you think I've missed anything, drop it in the comments below. We're happy to get back to you, and happy fishing. I think I saw a rise over there before. Yeah, I'm gonna go get him.